Here you go, Matt. I'm going to make our extra chair helpful. Put one of the stars of our conference, our little Aflac duck. Right? So if anyone's wondering where those came from, you can thank Mr. Matt Owenby, the SVP and CHRO of Aflac. Here's a water.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm going to need it after Dr. Paquette crushes the whole point of this discussion.
So I met Matthew last year when he was honored with the CHRO of the Year Award, and he shared some of his story, which we thought was so compelling we wanted to feature on our cover. So clearly the duck is a big all-in.
The ducks are real.
There.
Yeah, we have lots of ducks on campus.
That image is so great and really represents your employer branding. And I got to use a pun, a duck pun, on the cover, so it's like a trouble win for a writer.
Nice.
But what you can't read as well is that some of your initiatives are driving this 87% employee engagement rate.
Yeah.
We just had a very interesting...
Which apparently doesn't matter.
Right, which, it's not something that we think of at the magazine. We cover it frequently. We do think it's an important measure. It's interesting to see a different side of it, but we're going to really talk about why you feel it is important, how it's driven some of these employee experience initiatives at Aflac.
Yeah, it's probably, I think Peter's right. I think, it's certainly changed over the years that I've been in HR. It was satisfaction back in the 90s. Now it's certainly engagement. And really, I think it's now the point of what are you using the data for and how are you segmenting the data for activities? Obviously, our survey comes out in an engagement, titling, and nomenclature. But what we've done over the years is used it as a place to really focus our resources, whether it's HR operations or whatever, to usually address an issue. As even since the last time you and I talked about it, it's really become more of a cultural and leadership trust measurement, and we can talk a little bit about that as we go. But even in the context of engagement surveys, the way we utilize it is to get a kind of a temperature check of how people are feeling about the corporation, but actually most recently, most importantly, how are they feeling about the culture, and do they trust the leadership, and the reasons for that will become apparent as we talk.
Right, and I know when we spoke last year, you brought up the point that you really cull information from these surveys to determine changes.
That's right.
And you're really listening to what your employees are telling you.
We are very keen on, you asked, we did. That's sort of old nomenclature from the past. But if we see, for example, one of the things that we talked about last year was we were seeing a decline in the number of employees that were actually posting internal job openings. And we have a culture where we want to promote from within. I can talk a lot of the reasons for that. How many of y'all have been to Columbus, Georgia? Right. So that's why we promote from within one. So come back, please. There's plenty of space. That's where we're headquartered, Columbus, Georgia, which is in the middle of nowhere. And I'm from Georgia, so I have a lot of perspective on the middle of nowhere. But we have to promote from within. It's just part of what we have to do. And we started seeing declines year over year, and how many people were being promoted from within, how many people were posting to internal job posting from within. And that showed up in an engagement survey a couple of years back. And so that prompted us to create the Career Success Center, which is designed to help internal employees write resumes, do practice interviews, but most importantly, to connect with the live hiring manager. So if you so dare to post a job inside of Aflac as a hiring manager, then you have automatically, by default, signed yourself up for lots of personal interactions where you're not going to use my TA team to communicate bad information or why you're not qualified or why you didn't fit the bill. If you do that internally, you are going to get some up close and personal interaction with real live employees. So we did that, and we've seen about a 33% increase from where we originally were in internal job postings from internal employees. And we've also seen quite a bit of point movement from that. One of the attributes that we noticed was that people that are in the interview process from the outside have typically been in the interview process. The people on the inside have typically not been involved in interviewing. They typically haven't updated their resume in a decade. We have a very, very long tenure across the corporation as well. And so they're at a fundamental disadvantage just in a process perspective. So part of the activities that we do in the Career Success Center just refresh people's experience with interviewing, experience with resume writing, and it's dramatically helped people move on and move up in the corporation.
Great, so why don't we go through the slides? And
Sure.
Why don't you start with the pillars that you were telling me about?
Sure. We're big on relationships, primarily because of where we're located, although we do have offices in 50 states. The big locations for Aflac are actually in Tokyo, and in Columbus, Georgia, Atlanta, Columbia, Albany, and Nebraska. And more and more of our business is going the way of technology. And the last conversation you heard about that. But financial services companies are digitizing, if that's even a word these days, but digitizing more and more. And so in order for us to get our fair share of talent, we can't necessarily compete with a Google, with an Apple, with even a lot of the folks in this room. We don't really try and compete on that perspective. We try and compete on the perspective of how we're going to treat you, and that begins with relationships. We want people to be connected with us for a very long period of time. The average tenure at the corporation is about 12 years. We have cohorts in the 1820s. Our CEO's been employed with the company 45 years. So we believe in tenure for a lot of reasons, but mainly because we have a long-term investment in people. And because of that, we want to be in relationships with people. And so a lot of the things we do in HR I realize that they may not be the cool technology solution, but they work because they're super basic and they're relationship based. So everything we do in HR is attempting to be relationship based. We can talk a little bit about how we go through that with hiring, the sharing that we do, coaching. We'll go through all of that during the presentation, but really this is not designed to be preachy or here's what we're doing in Aflac and we're great. It's really designed to be more of a conversation around ideas and things that you can do back in your business without spending a fortune. We don't spend a ton of money on these things. You can actually, these days, get a lot for your money if you just focus on specific aspects of what we do. Hiring, we've heard a little bit about that over the past couple of days. Hiring is obviously very important to all of our organizations, kind of the talent pool that we have. We have very, very large call centers across the U.S. And because of that, the nature of our hiring process tends to be pretty unusual, meaning that when we hire a person, the person will be inside the company for as few as 6 weeks to as many as 3 months before they actually do their job. I realize that is non-conventional, but we take our time with hiring and we take our time with orientation in a world where most orientations, at least at the other companies I worked for, lasted about 5 or 6 hours. Our orientation process, especially for people that are going to interact with our customers. Our primary purpose for being around is providing cancer insurance and accidents insurance. So when you call Aflac, you're generally having a very, very bad day. And a very, very difficult conversation. You have a child that's got leukemia, you have cancer, you've been in an accident. So we want people that are going to interact with our customers to be hyper caring, very engaged, and it's part of our culture is to take care of those people very well, and we prepare them through a very, very specific hiring process, and it tends to be a bit long in comparison.
And how do you have a lot of touch points throughout? How are you keeping these people engaged?
We do. We basically, depending on whether it's a call center job or an actuary job, it's 2 different tracks, but what we do is they're engaged softly with their team as they learn the culture, as they learn their job, as they learn what we expect from them. And so you can probably, the fastest way to kind of describe it to a group like this is there's a lot of shadowing of work that goes on in that first 6 weeks to even 8 to 9 weeks, where we make sure people are understanding the way we are doing work and the context of how we're training them is a bit matched. So we don't let them become disconnected, although they are segregated from the general population from a work perspective every single day. All throughout their week, they're doing and they're engaged in watching us do work, and here's how we do work, and asking questions. It's a bit of a educational process that goes on for many, many weeks before you even are allowed to interact with a customer because of the sensitivity we have with our customers.
But it sounds very hands-on, so there.
It is very, very hands-on. It's very slow, and it's obviously pretty non-conventional in this day and age of hiring people and getting them back.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Internships, I'm sure you all have an internship program. We have a 98% conversion, and the reason we do that and how we do that is because, again, where we're located, it's very critical for us to give and have relationships with people and maintain them. So even when they go back to university, we have them back on campus throughout the year. We invite them back. We stay very close to them. They're a big part of our talent pool, especially on the actuarial sciences area of our organization, our asset management organization. We have a very, very large, what we call a global investments group. We're managing about $250 billion worth of assets. And again, most people don't associate Aflac with Wall Street. So in order to compete for that kind of talent, you have to have a very, very different approach, because your name recognition is not necessarily going to, you're not a Goldman, you're not a Bank of America, you're not a Merrill, et cetera, but you're competing, we're competing for that kind of talent. Same thing in our Japan office, which is 80% of our business is in Tokyo. So internships and the talent pipeline is a little bit different there, but it's very, very similar in the U.S. around building and establishing long-standing relationships with people. Veterans in our community, we are actually co-located very, very close in the U.S. to a very, very large military base, a base called Fort Benning. We do an enormous amount to not only support military families, but also provide opportunities. We've got about 280 active military personnel within our company today, who we spend a lot of time making sure they're well cared for, given all the activities that are involved in externally. We have a great relationship with our local military, but it's not just in Columbus, it's across the U.S. It's something we're very, very proud of. We like to give back to the communities that we work in. We have a base with 180,000 troops in it, so obviously we hire somewhere between 30 and 40 a year from the Benning base.
Is your process any different around that?
It's not different. What we typically find is it's a little bit more hands-on in the sense that we once a month we will go down to the base and help them with their kind of integration into out of the military.
Yeah.
And so that's everything from translating their resume into a more business resume, as well as giving them the ability to learn how to communicate in ways that will make them better fits, whether it's at Aflac or another job that they want. We do it as a service to them and to give back to people that have been sacrificing for us. And so once a month, the team I'll go down sometimes, as well as my team will go down, and we'll do an integration session where we talk about how to get out of the military and transition into civilian life. The other thing we're very, very passionate and focused on is how we give back to our core values and our mission around cancer and pediatric cancer specifically. We have a lot of new employees that come in and say, hey, look, we want to set up separate philanthropic activities. We want to give to this, give to that. Our CEO has been very, very focused on childhood cancer. We have a close partnership with the Children's Cancer Center in Atlanta. We've donated about $190 million over the past decade to eradicating childhood cancer, and it's one of our core missions. So all of our philanthropic activities are focused on that. These ducks are an example of that. 100% of the proceeds, you can buy one of these ducks or these cool socks somewhere, go to pediatric, trying to cure pediatric cancer. And we sponsor Children's Healthcare in Atlanta. We think that that helps us not only just with our brand, but showing people, as well as our employee base, that we care and want to give back to the community. Speaking, we're huge as part of the culture of being a Southerner. We talk a lot, and so we speak all the time. You will not find our CEO, who is down, I guess, depending on your perspective, he's on the left-hand side of the screen, sitting in his office all day. He is out and about, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. He tends to be a very, very busy person. And our CFO, our head of operations, Teresa White, the president of the U.S., these people do not stay in their offices all day. They're constantly walking the floors, visiting the campus. We think that, big on relationships. So in order to have a relationship, you have to interact with people, you have to talk to people. And so every year, this is an example recently just happened where we do a state of the company. We bring everybody in. We literally stop working for the day, live stream the company leaders so we can connect people to our vision and our strategy and our focus throughout the year. Coaching, something that we do a lot of. We have defined coaching programs, but not everybody participates in them, so we do what we call talk sessions with senior leaders. This is an example of our Chief People Officer, a person named Brenda Mullins, doing a session where she comes in and really just answers people's questions about what's happening in the company, everything from that all the way over to, hey, could you explain why this is going on, or I'm unhappy about this, unhappy about that. We don't shy away from those conversations. We want to engage people, especially in the more negative things, because we believe that while we may not be able to solve every problem, we want to know that we're open to listening to them and engaging with them.
Right, and there have been studies that link a good employee experience to a good customer experience. So providing the employees with the feedback if they're having a challenge and you can address it will make them better at delivering their work.
Yeah, especially just given the nature of the work that we do, our CEO is a big believer in this idea of if you take care of the employees, they're going to take care of the company. And it's tough to do because your version, your definition of care is very specific to you. But we're open to that. We're open to having customized experiences in HR relationships. What you're seeing here is something that literally I did all last week. We take a week-long celebration of our employees where me and the CEO will literally go out all week long and interact with every single employee across the U.S. Next week, we're going to be going to Japan and doing it there. But we believe in personally thanking people and engaging with people. So we spend an entire week. It literally just happened, and then we have a day, which was last Friday, where we closed the company. Everybody comes in and do a gigantic recognition ceremony for everybody that has been important to the company for the past year, and making sure that we're just reiterating this spirit of thankfulness in basically a world that doesn't have a lot of it. So,
can you give a highlight from last week?
Could. We had a gigantic karaoke battle that I lost.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was.
Well, maybe tonight.
Yeah, I can show you. I'll show you what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your pipes.
Exactly. I paid that. We let the employees vote on what the session's going to be like, and for whatever reason, I was mixed up in a karaoke battle with a person that went to school with Usher. And so it was a whole, it was not great. He was very, very talented.
Yeah.
And I'm just a great HR person. Development, I mentioned a little bit about Career Success Center. It's something that our president, Teresa White, and I came up with a few years back. It originally started as this idea to help people get ahead at the company, and now it's kind of turned into really kind of a launch pad of all of the new HR initiatives that we have going on, whether it's Toastmasters or book clubs or how we engage. And, we've got basically an internal process for ensuring we listen to our employees. This is a way we have these sites on every single campus that we have, where you can come in and have everything from career counseling all the way over to, hey, look, I may want to look for another job outside of the company. We don't want that to be the case, but if that is the case, we'll help you do that too. So sometimes that's the nature of the interactions we have. And if it's helping people find jobs outside of the company, we will actually do that. We have tough conversations in the Career Success Center. One of the things that the activities has really, really been helpful to is the shotgun poster. don't know if you all have any of those. You may not have those in your organizations. The employee that believes they're qualified for every job, so they post for every job, every day, all the time. Yeah, I know you all have any of those people. They're solely unique to Aflac. It's never happened to any other company I work for either. But we bring those people in and have a conversation with them. So you may want to focus, maybe on one job or two. You may want to dial it back a little bit and give them some coaching and feedback that just because you've been at the company for 15 years doesn't make you initially qualified for every job that we have open. So the Career Success Center helps a lot. We've already talked a little bit about what we offer in the Career Success Center. Career Expo is probably one I want to highlight. I think I have a slide on it. Yeah, I do. It's this idea that I mentioned in the beginning that if you're a hiring manager at Aflac and open a job, if you dare so do that, then you're going to find yourself at minimally a monthly, sometimes quarterly, it just depends on how many job openings we have, Career Expo, where you come in and you interact with lines of employees that may be interested in your job. It's basically the old-fashioned way that people used to a long time ago in the late 90s. When they wanted a job, they'd show up at job fairs. That's basically what this is, where you come in and you interact with all the hiring managers that have open jobs. And it's good because people can get immediate feedback right there on the spot. They're not relying on my TA team or our recruiting team to get back to people. The feedback comes directly from the leaders, and we've had great success with it. We're really proud of it.
Now, that's an interesting point. So how do you balance out the vacancies that this internal mobility creates? Is it just how does that work?
Yeah, the company, we have been fortunate to be in a relatively moderate level of growth over the last couple of business cycles, 3 to say 5 years. And so we tend to hire about, it's all together about 850 people in the corporate side a year. We hire about 24,000 sales agents a year. And so the balance is actually, because we're so focused on promoting from within, we have this sort of constant pipeline of new entrants into the organization. So if you were to break that 850 up, it literally is kind of 50% are internals and 50% are externals. And so we've been fortunate not to have hit kind of a growth wall. But on the other hand, we don't tend to hire in big blocks and then kind of shed in small blocks. We're very, very thoughtful about the number of employees that we have active. We tend to be a little bit understaffed all the time.
Okay.
So we've never had a layoff in the company's 60-year history, and hopefully never will.
Right.
Hopefully never will. One of the other things that we do is an app that you can go out and build for yourself. Back in the day, 2 years ago, that's back in the day, we spent about $5,000 on a program to come in and build an app. It has leadership notes on it. It has campus maps. It has what's going on in the organization today. So if you're a leader and you need talking points for your touch bases or your leadership meetings, you can go to this app, click on a little button, and it'll automatically generate, here's what's going on in the company today. Here's what's happening strategically. Here are the key points we need you as a leader, middle manager, whatever, to communicate to your team. It also has the ability to go to our own Facebook program. I know that's a risky thing these days to have employees on Facebook. We have an Aflac Experience Facebook page that's linked from here as well. But it's mainly a place where we can give real-time updates to leaders as well as employees to make sure they have easy access to important information.
And do you track the participation rates?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes, we track it all. Peter talked about you should measure everything. Did he say that? Or I made it in my mind. We have about 91% of our leaders clicking through at some point during the day. Every day, every single day. And we've deliberately done that with a combination of kind of dialing back our intranet news and sending everything to this app because we want to exactly we want people to be interacting with the app more and more. But we have great click-through rates with this app, and people are doing more and more on their smartphone devices. Now the next thing we're in beta testing right now, performance reviews on your app. Even though I have my own views of performance reviews, but leaders want to have those kind of activities on this app because we've been so successful in driving communications through this little app that costs about $5,000 and very, very little to maintain. Let's see what else. Caring. Healthcare clinics, something that we really started pushing in 2015. It's been a lot of years now. We've actually rolled out on-site healthcare to all of our campuses in the U.S. So you can get everything from a physical all the way over to physical therapy and never have to leave the site. We have a lot of hourly employees, and so it's very important for us to provide things on site, on campus for them to benefit from. It's actually, this process is reduced the most expensive element of our healthcare offering, which is visits to the urgent care and visits to the ER when neither is necessary. I'm just kind of feeling bad on the weekend or whatever. We have telemedicine, so if it's on the weekend and during the week, if you're not feeling great, you can go and talk to one of our doctors on site on all of our campuses. And it's been a marvelous return on investment, but it's also it's putting our money where our mouth is. We care about people. We don't want them to work through the pain. We don't want them to work through an illness. We want them to get treatment, and we want them to have the access to it. We keep expanding the offerings in these centers. This year we added psychological counseling to it, so people that are having issues with depression or anxiety or everything over from that all the way over to if you want a nutritionalist, we have nutritionalists that can help you build a diet and show you how to shop effectively, things like that. So it's been very, very well received, and it's been a great return on investment as well from our insurance program. I think celebration is probably one of the last things we'll talk about. This is an actual tenure book. We celebrate tenure very, very specifically.
The ducks on the cover.
That's right. We have ducks. We have real live ducks everywhere. The ducks are very keen to the organization. They're funny about them. Lots of duck ponds in Columbus. But this is we actually own a printing company, and most large insurance companies have a lot of print around, and so this is something we design internally, and we celebrate. It's a bit of a yearly yearbook for people. It seems old-fashioned and seems sort of in this digitized world, something from another age, but every employee that tenures that meets a milestone, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, etc. We do a full glossy magazine write-up on all of them. Every single page has a different employee on it. And it just shows them how much we care for them and appreciate them. And I know in this world of digitization, these things go like hotcakes. You can imagine, maybe not, but it's something that we're very, very focused on. We want to make sure people feel celebrated and feel special.
Right. It must make them feel good and appreciate it.
Yeah, no matter what people say, the yearbook experience is a big deal. So we try and provide that. I mentioned already the Aflac experience page on Facebook. It is heavily monitored. Believe me, it's heavily monitored. We do have occasional issues where people are taking pictures of crazy stuff going on, but it also helps people connect with their experience, and its vast majority of it is very, very positive. Even when it's negative, if it's negative, we want to hear about it, and we go engage with people. If they're having difficult days or difficult issues, that's a way we can do that. But the Aflac Facebook experience page is a way we allow people to interact with their employment and tell us a little bit about what's going on. Incentive programs, we celebrate this. It's not something hidden when we have a great milestone year. We go out and have big days of where I literally will go out and hand out. I know it's old-fashioned. Yes, we have direct deposit at the company, but we go out and hand out real live checks. Actually, inside we do payroll in-house at Aflac. Almost everything in HR is done. I would say everything in HR is actually done in-house. We don't outsource anything. It's pretty unusual. But it gets back to this. We have a lot of control and a lot of care over what we do in HR, and so it's just kind of unthinkable to our board and our leadership that we would be outsourcing any element of HR. It doesn't mean if you do, you're not as great as us. It just is a philosophy that we have that We wouldn't outsource the most important part of our business to people that don't really understand our culture or understand what we need to do to deliver an unusual employee experience. I think we're coming to the end. I know we're running out of time. All Aflac is a program where we connect with all of the divisions of the corporation, specifically in our Tokyo division. That's about 80% of our business. I've said that several times, meaning that it's $30 billion of our $38 billion company. The U.S. operation, if you watch SEC football, you'll see the little Aflac duck at the end of the commercials or in the halftime. That's about an $8 billion company. Our Japanese operation is about $30 billion. And so we want to make sure that people connect with the biggest part of the corporation. And the program is called Aflac, and birds of a feather obviously flock together. So
That's right. That's a good way to end it.
Right.
Well, I want to thank Matthew for sharing some of his story, and I'm sorry we're short on time, but I'm sure he'd be open to any questions
please.
if you want to grab him while he's
As long
still
as it's not about employee engagement, we can't talk about that anymore.
Please join me in thanking Matthew.